Hellish.
Those who restrain desire do so because theirs is weak enough to be restrained, and the restrainer or reason usurps its place and governs the unwilling. And being restrained, it by degrees becomes passive till it is only the shadow of desire. The history of this is written in Paradise Lost, and the governor of reason is called Messiah, and the original archangel or possessor of the command of the heavenly host is called the devil or Satan, and his children are called sin and death. So that...
The children appear? Is that real, or is the fact that the devil makes sin and...
Well, the devil lets sin and death into the earth.
Oh,
because
so the concept of sin and death. Or are they actually characters?
They're characters.
They're characters.
Yeah, and so those two characters, they enter Earth after Satan manages to corrupt Adam and Eve. He manages to make them eat the apple.
I found out what Paradise Regained is about. It's about the devil trying to corrupt Jesus the same way he tried to corrupt Adam and Eve.
Yeah, and it doesn't work. Well, you know, so Satan, so sin and death, in Paradise Lost, they are actually waiting to enter the earth. They're waiting at the door, and only when Satan manages to make Adam and Eve eat of the fruits of the tree of knowledge, can they enter the earth, and then, you know, he's won a decisive victory on that front. Well, let's go on. So in the book of Job, Milton's Messiah is called Satan, for this history has been adopted by both parties. So you kind of see how revolutionary this is. Like, he's seeing things from the perspective of Satan, basically. It indeed appeared to reason as if desire was cast out, but the devil's account is that Messiah fell and formed the heaven of what he stole from the abyss. This is shown in the Gospel, where he prays to the Father to send the Comforter, or desire that reason may have ideas to build on, the Jehovah of the Bible being no other than he who dwells in flaming fire. It's quite a strong beginning to a book. Okay, so we're going to so this note is one that has become extremely famous. Note the reason Milton wrote in fetters when he wrote of angels and God, and at liberty when he wrote of devils and hell, is because he was a true poet and of the devil's party without knowing it. So according to Blake, the true poets, they are of the devil's party. Yeah.
This idea also appears in Romanian literature.
Ah, really?
Yes, in Blaga, if you know.
Yes.
He had this idea of Luciferic knowledge and paradise also of the paradise, knowledge of the paradise, and one was very revealing and for everyone, so everyone could access it, and the other one was for true poets, who know how to hide mystery and play with concepts. And
that could be, I mean, with the hidden knowledge, where the idea is that if you find out these things, you should really be punished, but okay, you're a poet, and that might be punishment enough. I want to. I'm getting a bit desperate because of the time constraint. Because I want to. We're finishing off here with the marriage of heaven and hell, and I do want to I do want to show it to you because it's like it's a book of who managed to read it. The Marriage of You did.
I listened to the audio book.
Okay.
Because I'm translation.
Okay.
But I want to. So I want to have an idea of what is about. So
yeah, it's a short. I mean, what is it? 10, 15 pages. But it's very, very dense. So, okay, let me read some of it. A memorable fancy. So the thing is, he has these trips like Blake. He doesn't need LSD, as I said. I mean, he's just like, he had this saying, like he saw the world differently than other people saw it, and so he wrote at one point, "Do you people ask me what? When you see the sun, don't you see a disc in the sky, a golden disc about the size of a gold guinea?" A guinea is a coinage in Britain, or it was. And he says, no, I see a troop of angels with trumpets chanting, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts," So if you see that kind of thing when you look up in the sky, you're a pretty special guy and you're a true poet, right? So anyway, a memorable fancy. As I was walking among the fires of hell, delighted with the enjoyments of genius, which to angels looks like torment and insanity, I collected some of their proverbs, thinking that as the sayings used in a nation mark its character, so the Proverbs of Hell show the nature in infernal wisdom better than any description of buildings or garments. When I came home on the abyss of the five senses, where a flat-sided steep frowns over the present world, right? Because the present dimensions that we see is so constrained for him because he's used to seeing a broader reality, right? He wants to see a broader reality, the abyss of the five senses. I saw a mighty devil folded in black clouds hovering on the sides of the rock with corroding fires. Okay, we have here plate 7. I think we should see this.
But this is also Dante's idea, that hell contains some of the greatest,
right,
of some of the brightest people.
So maybe it's a reflection of truth. Maybe it's a reflection of truth. The fact that several, like also in world religions, you see the same things again and again and again and again and again, and in world mythologies, maybe because they're describing the same thing. That could be the simplest explanation. I mean, ideas are not just out of nothing. They describe something. So, but it's very difficult to say what they describe because we don't generally have access to these things. But yeah. So I mean, because for example, we have different mythologies, like you have Polynesian mythology, then you have Babylonian mythology, and it's very hard to say that they were influenced by each other, but maybe they were just describing the same thing. Okay. How do you know but every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight, closed by your senses 5. So here we have the Proverbs of Hell, and these are some of the, well, as I've said, they're individually extremely famous. They're just one-liners that are so famous. I don't know if you recognize some of them, but they are, like, if you sit there and read The Marriage of Heaven and Hell and you read the Proverbs of Hell, you can sit with each of those proverbs and really think about it, because there's so much thought behind each of them. well, okay, so he whose face gives no light shall never become a star. I mean, you know, I think we all know somebody whose face gives no light. And this one is extremely famous. The hours of folly are measured by the clock, but of wisdom no clock can measure. And a more seemingly more mundane one is the busy bee has no time for sorrow. That's also extremely famous. So, some of the ones that I thought were required a lot of thought. Folly is the cloak of knavery. What does that mean? What is folly?
Madness?
Not madness. No, idiocy, basically.
Idiocy.
Yeah. Is the cloak of knavery. What is knavery?
To be a knight?
No.
It's the opposite.
Servitude.
Sorry?
Servitude.
What?
Servitude.
I don't know the word.
Well, it basically, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a lowly position, but what it means, what it has come to mean, being a knave means that you are false and you have all sorts of evil plans, like, you know, like Iago was a knave, you know, and is somebody who has really bad intentions and is false and is base, like a lowly person. So, and what do they mean? What is a cloak? Yeah. And what is the metaphor?
Folly is the mask, actually,
Yeah.
which
Exactly.
an evil person puts to
Yes.
deceive.
Yes. So the person who has bad intentions pretends to be like a idiot, you know, like
Yeah.
yeah. Shame is pride's cloak, right? And usually, I mean, the more common one that we have in our culture is that pride is shame's cloak, right? That someone pretends to be really big, but really is ashamed of himself. But here Blake says it the other way around, someone who's like that, but within himself he has pride and he has resentment, you know, so watch out, right? And
Like Uriah Heep.
yeah, like Uriah Heep. Yeah, good. And I mean, Blake always goes to the depth of things. So everything, like also in the Songs of Innocence, they're written, some of them so simply, but they are still in the extreme depths. Okay, so this one, another very famous one, prisons are built with stones of law, brothels with bricks of religion. Okay. So, I mean, he doesn't care, right? He's not being politically correct at all.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
Because nowadays there's a bad way to be politically correct.
Right. But he's not being politically correct in any way. So, I mean, the lust of the goat is the bounty of God. The wrath of the lion is the wisdom of God. The nakedness of woman is the work of God.
That's nice.
Yes.
Because I'm really fond of Greek statues.
Mm-hmm.
I really admire the
Yes.
nakedness of their statues.
So he has one here. I mean, because being such a visionary genius who just said whatever he thought, obviously he had a lot of problems with people around him, you know. So what he writes here is, the selfish smiling fool and the sullen frowning fool shall both be thought wise, that they may be a rod. What does this mean?
Which ones?
It's a long one, so the selfish smiling fool and the sullen frowning fool. So selfish and smiling, you know,
I don't get the last part. What does it mean that they may be a rod?
Okay, a rod. What's a rod?
It's a stick.
It's a stick. And so the idea is that you are, okay, if you are trying to do something great, really trying to do something great, you will see people who are complete idiots being thought of as being wise, and probably in your time wiser than you, and they're really annoying, and they are a rod to you. It's like it hits your pride, your ego over the head, and it's a rod because it means it gives you humility. You have to still continue just creating, even though you create works of art, and then people are creating just some nonsense and saying nonsense and putting you down, and you just have to keep on going because that's a rod for you. It keeps you in line. It keeps you humble.
Yeah, the way I understood it at first was if they were in a position of power.
Yes.
You showed me another interpretation. I didn't think of that.
Yes, well, they would be in a position of power. I mean, selfish, smiling fools and sullen, frowning fools are often in positions of power.